Welcome back to another episode of the Bump and Run podcast. I am your host, Ben Thompson, and as always, I am joined by Charles Norman and Ryan Bush, and we got episode 44 on tap here for you guys tonight. We're going to be talking some Week 9 NFL as we are at the halfway point here of the season. We'll do a little uh, power rankings here in our second segment, and we'll finish off the show tonight doing like we normally do, highlighting some Week 10 games and offering up our picks to end so, without further ado, let's hop into the show tonight. I did want to introduce our sponsor, Dr. Squatch. Dr. Squatch is changing the way men approach hygiene by providing all natural, high quality, healthy products that make you feel like a man and smell like a champion. We are talking bar soaps, hair care, colognes, beard oils, and more. If you guys are new to Dr. Squatch, you can save 10% off orders of $20 or more on your first purchase by using promo code DSC Brick 10. Once again, DSC Brick 10. That is on your screen now. Make sure you grab something from them. It's going to help you. It's going to help us. But without further ado, guys, let's get into the show here tonight. Week 9 in the books. Like I said there in the intro, crazy to think the season is just rolling along here thus far. And Charles Eagles get to 8-0 after a Thursday night victory over the Texans. Charles, I know that the Phillies didn't exactly get it done for you, but you got to be happy about the Texans not putting an end to that undefeated streak, man.
Yeah, I was able. That was literally the only football game I was able to watch over the weekend. Well, last what was it, week 9? And
Right.
you ain't gonna come out and blow teams out by 30 every week. This is the NFL. This is the best talent, but they won, and I wasn't like it was 14-14 at halftime. And they practically beat them 15-3 in the second half, so I wasn't too worried about it. I'm glad that they're 8-0 now. First
Yeah,
time in
8-0.
franchise history. Just keep it up.
Yeah, for sure. Big win for sure. Like you said, you're not going to go ahead and beat every team by 50 every week. I mean, you look at that undefeated season that the Patriots put together. I know before you get me, it's 18-1, but you look at that season. They had some blowouts, but you had some close games. Against the Chargers and a couple other teams where things could have gotten out of hand, but nonetheless, good to see those Eagles move on to 8-0. Bush, were you able to tune into the game on Thursday night? And what were your takeaways, man?
I mean, what more can you say? They're the best team in the league. They're the best team in the league right now. I mean, it's not like they blew the doors off the Texans. I think that the Texans made it pretty competitive. But look, the Eagles are just in another stratosphere compared to everybody else. I thought Jalen Hurts was efficient. He had 5 incomplete passes the whole game. They got the ground game going. Threw a nice touchdown pass to AJ Brown in the corner of the end zone, and then he was able to hit Dallas Goddard towards the pylon.
How about the
Um,
game he had?
Goddard had a Goddard is establishing himself as one of the better tight ends in the league as well. If I can just throw that out there, as if that offense needs any more weapons. So yeah, I mean, look, they're a great team. Can't take anything away from them. You can only focus on who's on your schedule, and yeah, I mean, can't take it away from them. You really can't. Everybody's going to sit here and say that, oh, they haven't played anybody, and like we talked about last week, that's just not fair. That's not their fault. They didn't make the schedule, So
Right. Yeah,
props
you
to
can only
Philly.
control who's on your you can only control who's on that roster or on that schedule rather. But yeah, so we'll kind of keep things moving. We won't spend too much time on that one. Another game that we highlighted last week was the Dolphins and the Bears. We had talked about this potentially being like one of those sneaky good games, and it did, kind of go down to the wire there. The Dolphins came through and got the dub, 35-32 there over the Bears, and that's a big road win for the Dolphins. How about what what Justin Fields was able to do, man? I mean, 178 rushing yards, I think it was. Most since 1950. I think somewhere in there that Michael Vick had done something similar all the way back in 2002. So just a crazy performance by them. But what were your overall takeaways from this game, Bush? You had Waddle getting a bunch of yards, you had Tyreek Hill racking yards up. What were your thoughts on this one?
This might sound a little crazy, but at this point, I would say that the Dolphins have the more explosive offense of any team in the AFC East, and that is obviously including the Bills. I mean, look at the receiving season Tyreek Hill is putting together so far this year. I mean, he's already over 1,000 yards receiving. You can argue he's OPOY already. Tua has so many options in that offense between Tyreek Hill, Waddle. They just traded for Jeff Wilson. He had a touchdown catch against Chicago. And I highlight Jeff Wilson because he was in San Francisco with Mike McDaniel, and I think he's pretty familiar with Mike McDaniel's offensive philosophy. So, you bring a guy like that over from San Francisco, he's familiar with pretty much everything, including the terminology used within that offense. And I think that just makes Tua's life a lot easier, another back to throw to. But man, I think Chicago's found their quarterback. I really do. I think that Justin Fields is the real deal. And it's just so funny, man. It's a long year. The first 4 or 5 weeks, everybody was saying, we don't know if Justin Fields is going to pan out to be who he truly can be because the Bears are holding him back and they have a defensive-minded head coach. Man, look at what he's done the last 3 weeks. I mean, he has completely flipped the script on his season. So it was a good game. Miami advances to 6-3. But if you're a Bears fan, I think you have a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, certainly. You bring in Claypool. I thought that they were trying to get him involved there right from the get-go. You had a questionable defensive pass interference that wasn't called there towards the end of that game that could have swayed things. But, this is the NFL week to week. You're going to have different stuff like that goes on. But, Charles, I know you were traveling. You weren't able to really catch much of the games on Sunday, but speak to what Justin Fields was able to pull off. I know Michael Vick used to be a guy that played for Philly. That kind of became something that you had gotten a little bit accustomed to over the years. But how about that stat line for him, man?
I think we lost him.
All right, we will go ahead and get Charles back in here shortly. We will go ahead and move forward then. Let's talk a little Patriots and Colts. Patriots get it done 26-3 over the Colts. This is a game where we had talked about him. We talked about the Patriots not necessarily being a team that we're going to score a ton of points, but Colts are basically in that same boat, man. They only scored 3 points. I had mentioned about Matt Judon getting 3 sacks, and he goes out and gets it done. So thought that was pretty impressive. But Charles, while you're back, I did want to just touch on the Justin Fields performance, man. You saw a guy like Mike Vick do that when he was playing for Philly. Somebody who can basically stretch the field and run around and escape the pocket. Just maybe speak to the performance that he had on Sunday, even though you weren't really able to catch the game.
I heard he ran for a lot of yards, and I saw a video of Mike McDaniel telling him to stop.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive.
All I know. But
I got you.
That, I mean, we rushed for 178 yards or something like that. I saw that graphic. Like, running backs don't rush from 178 yards in the league that often.
No,
and for a quarterback to do it, it's more impressive, I think.
Right.
I just wish that they would have won that game because it would have made that a little bit more impressive.
Yeah, no doubt. Like Bush said, they've been putting it together here over the last 3 weeks. Only one win to show for it, but nonetheless, I think one of the things we mentioned last week is them trying to figure things out and run that offense the way it needs to be ran. Get Fields, doing what he has to do to have that offense be successful. And I think they're starting to figure it out. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how their second half of the season goes. But nonetheless, we already started to talk about the Patriots and Colts. Just kind of hop right back into that. Frank Reich is out, and that's something that we talked about. potentially happening here. I think we talked about it in week 5. So, I had said that Matt Rule would be out by week 10. And here we are, week 10, where Frank Reich is also out. So Jeff Saturday comes in. I know that's kind of a little bit of a head scratcher for all three of us. I know we were kind of like, oh, where did that come from? But, I think if you're a Colts fan, you got to be excited about having a guy like that come in who's familiar with the program. But, maybe you see it differently, Charles.
No, I don't. I don't.
Okay.
I think you're 100% right.
Yeah, I mean, you have him come in and, he's somebody who's been there. He was there for, the Peyton Manning years. He's had success within that program. A lot of people were kind of up in arms about, some of these other prominent NFL OCs and maybe some previous HCs that, weren't given that opportunity. But, Jeff Saturday might have a real good shot at turning things around.
And sorry. And on top of that, I did think, I get why he was hired because of the familiar, him being a familiar person, right? But Reggie Wayne's on that staff, and he's a familiar person too. So, but I do think you're 100% right. Like this was, I don't know, I don't know if he'll have a good opportunity there because look who they have on their team. I think the biggest part of this, and when I first texted about Frank Reich being fired weeks ago when they benched Matt Ryan, I said that what's his name, Chris Ballard needed to be fired too, because that's the real problem in Indianapolis. So
Yeah,
you can get Jeff any day of the week
right.
and coach the team, and it ain't gonna work. But I get what other people are saying too about him not having the experience. You got other coaches like Bieniemy who doesn't have experience, who has a lot of experience, or other coaches of color. But I just don't think that they would hire, like in the middle of the season. I don't think they're gonna hire, and I can't remember if Romeo Crennel, if that happened to him when he became Cleveland's head coach, or was he hired in the off season?
I think he was an interim. I may be wrong. We can look it up, but
But
I'm
you
pretty
remember
sure.
when he left New England, did he leave New England in the off season or did he leave them in the middle of the season? Because I remember you all going there to play. So it's I say that to say it's rare for them to like go outside to find
Right.
a guy. And Saturday, I know people say Saturday was outside, but he was like doing consulting for the team. But it's a whole. Trust me, it is a weird thing. But
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, Bush, you can kind of talk on Jeff Saturday a little bit. Give your thoughts on it, but when you look at it, it's like the team itself, like Charles kind of alluded to, they're not putting together these great offensive efforts. I mean, you think that offensive line has been a, an offensive line that we've talked about before being the a nice offensive line. You have Quentin Nelson there. He was always somebody who was sure to be out there, throwing the pancake blocks and just opening holes up for the backs like Taylor and Hines is gone now, so Jackson's got to step up. But you look at it, and there was only 44 yards in the first quarter. So Colts were then at 33 yards at half. That's their lowest since 1992. So it was a terrible offensive output for the Colts. But Frank Reich's not out on the field playing. So, Bush, your thoughts?
Well, I'm definitely very happy for Jeff Saturday, while also at the same time wondering if there was any sort of consideration towards the Rooney Rule in their hiring process. Um, and I don't think there was, and I think that that's a shame. Go ahead, Charles.
Rooney Rule doesn't affect interim head coaching jobs.
Oh, it
So
doesn't
you
affect
don't
the
have to
interim.
go by Rooney
Okay.
Rule for that. So you can just hire anyone.
So that only applies to the off season then. Okay. I just learned something new because I wasn't aware of that. However,
No,
Yeah,
not just the off season, but if they were to like actually hire somebody to be their um actual head coach, it would have counted. But they would have to go by the rule. But since they weren't doing it by their um, he's an interim coach. It's not Rooney Rule. They don't go by the Rooney Rule for that.
it doesn't apply. Okay, okay. Um, regardless, I mean, I think it does speak to who you know in the NFL, of course, just like anything else in life. Obviously, Jeff Saturday was a staple of that Colts offensive line when Peyton Manning was there. And they've got Reggie Wayne on that staff, so they keep people around. And I'm sure one day Peyton Manning will have something to do with their front office as well, because the Colts have a lot of legends that have played for them. However, I was definitely surprised because Jeff Saturday certainly wouldn't have been my first guess to replace Frank Reich. But as we spoke about, guys, he was somebody we talked about 3-4 weeks ago as maybe being on the fringe here in the middle of the season, and that's exactly what's happened. But Indy just hasn't been able to figure it out since Andrew Luck retired. They just haven't been able to figure it out. I mean, you look at Jacoby Brissett, um, Philip Rivers, Wentz, Matt Ryan. Now you've got Ellinger in there, and they can't get that quarterback situation figured out. And like I spoke about a few weeks ago, Naheem Hines said it perfectly. He said, "Look, in all fairness to us, we're the only team in the division that hasn't had a steady quarterback at the position for the last 5 years. So it's hard to get chemistry down. It's hard to keep the same offense. Um, the whole unit just can't mesh together appropriately if you don't have that one staple at the position. So I don't know. To sit here and say that that is Frank Reich's fault wouldn't be totally fair. I think a lot of it's on Chris Ballard. I mean, look, he's the one who is bringing these guys in and making the decisions to um, essentially put them into the starting role. Obviously, that's up to Frank Reich and his staff, but Ballard is bringing them in with the expectation of them being a starter, i.e., Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan, most notably. And it just hasn't worked out for him. So if you're a Colts fan, you have to be awfully frustrated between the way the O line has played. Jonathan Taylor hasn't stayed healthy, and when he has been on the field, he hasn't looked like the same back. Now you've got Ellinger starting a quarterback, and you've got Matt Ryan on the bench. So it's been a rough go for Indy this year, and now you've got Jeff Saturday coming into the fold with no experience whatsoever. I'm happy for him. Do I think Indy could have been a little bit more creative with their head coaching search? Yeah, maybe, but I certainly wouldn't have expected Jeff Saturday to be on that list. Just
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
it's like he was on ESPN a couple of weeks ago. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah, no, for sure. And not to mention, they just fired their OC. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago at this point. But watching that game, guys, as a Patriots fan, was made me happy. I had a nice Sunday. The Colts looked like they couldn't get anything going. Uh, in all fairness, the Patriots relied on Nick Folk yet again with 4 more field goals this week. But their defense
And
showed
won them
out.
the game.
Right. And their defense won them that game. That's been the theme this year. Jonathan Jones had a nice pick six. He also had a perfectly timed block punt that put the Patriots at like the 3-yard line. So, defense coming through. Like I said, Matt Judon, 3 sacks. Um, Josh Uche also had 3 sacks. And Ellinger went down 9 times. So that was a great defensive game for New England. One of those feel good games, and they get to 5-3, and they are going to have a bye this week. So that should be it for the Patriots talk. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the Sunday night game. Bush, I know you were watching that. We were talking about it a little bit before we hopped on the show here. But Chiefs get it done in overtime, 20-17 over the Titans. Malik Willis was your starter for the Titans in place of Tannehill this week. And I thought the kid looked good, man. Given the circumstances, being at Arrowhead on the road, tough place to play. I thought they looked, pretty decent. But, at the end of the day, you have Mahomes who's going to come through there at the end. all the momentum changed when he scored that touchdown to bring those guys back into the game. I know the Titans were up for quite a while, but Mahomes got it done through the air, got it done with his legs, and forced overtime. So you kind of knew the direction that game was going to go as soon as the Chiefs tied it up. But nonetheless, man, Chiefs get it done. Bush, your ultimate takeaways from this one, man.
Yeah, I thought Malik Willis hung in there as long as he possibly could. I mean, it was only his second start in the NFL. He made a few very impressive throws. He threw a beautiful back shoulder to Austin Hooper, which put him just short of the goal line. He threw another deep pass along the right sideline that went incomplete through the receiver's hands, but he threw it perfectly over the top of the defensive back and into the receiver's hands. The receiver just wasn't able to hang on. And some very timely runs with his legs, able to pick up first downs. I think that they've got the RPO and the read option game going pretty nicely with Malik Willis as well from some of the plays I saw. And King Henry was his dominant self. But, not to sound subjective here in any way, but it's almost annoying how good how good Kansas City is because they're never out of the game. I mean, Tennessee was dominating them, absolutely dominating them on the ground, dominating them defensively, and they were still able to find a way to come back. I mean, Mahomes scrambling on 3rd and 14 won them that game, and then he scrambled for a touchdown right after that, and then all the momentum shifted. And props to Kansas City because their defense kept them in there. But, this is why Kansas City is so good because they always find ways to win. It's not just through the air. It's not just through Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy's creative offensive play calling. It's stuff like you were able to see Mahomes do. It's crazy. No other quarterback in the league can do what he can do. No other quarterback can. It's just a fact.
Yeah, I mean, they look good, man. You knew they were going to get back into the game. There was no true questioning of that. I mean, I was never comfortable watching that game. I mean, like we talked about, we wanted the Chiefs to win strictly for our picks because we had a good week in the picks, but you you hate seeing shit like that where it's just like you said, kind of annoying, but hey, that just goes to show the respect that Mahomes and the Chiefs deserve, man. You love to hate it, but you got to respect a player who will put it all on the line and give the heart necessary to get back in a big game like that and against an opponent that has given them trouble before. So, Charles, again, I know you didn't get a chance to see this one, but Chiefs get it done on Sunday night in overtime.
Yeah.
Had your typical Mahomes magic, like we've talked about, and they're right up there with the Bills, as we kind of figured they would be.
Yeah. They are what we thought they were.
Exactly. And if you're gonna crown them,
Crown them. And I think the Bills better watch out because that AFC Championship gonna fuck around and be an Arrowhead.
yeah, I know. If you're the Bills, I know it's divisional losses, but losing to teams like Miami and the Jets, who are teams that have been doing well this year, but the Bills, they can't lose those types of games. So
In that way, scoring 17 points in both of them.
yep, exactly. Another one was the Monday night game. We kind of dove into that one a little bit. I know Bush, you rode with the Saints. I know Charles and I had rode with the Ravens. The Ravens get it done 27-17. Again, you watch this Saints team and it's just like the defense likes to show up, but offensively, I mean, I don't know what the answer is. I was texting back and forth with Mike on Monday night, and I said, the Saints sort of look like the Patriots do right now. The defense is, providing a steady stream of, stops and getting the ball back and giving the offense those chances, but they're squandering it with, picks and 3 and outs and, just drives that aren't ending in touchdowns. So at the end of the day, tough one for the Saints, but those
I'll,
Ravens continue to win, man. Go ahead, Charles.
I'll just say I said that when Mike was on the show, and I asked him if he had any types of qualms or worries about their offense and how that offense is going to run. I knew it would be like this. You
Yeah,
don't just continue to be a good offensive team losing a great offensive coach, going to a defensive coach who is just a defensive coach, not a great head coach. And I don't care who your offensive coordinator is. We know who was calling the plays.
right. Yeah, exactly. But Bush, I know you went Saints. I know. Yeah, I think you might have been just trying to give us a little bit of leeway. But what were your thoughts on the game, man?
I was sorely wrong with my prediction. Like I said last week, man, I just figured they're at home in the Bayou, Monday Night Football. They'll have the crowd behind them, and it just didn't turn out that way at all. Going into this year, I really thought the Saints were going to be the most underrated team in the NFL, and I say that because they had a healthy Jameis. Um, Alvin Kamara's suspension was not going to take effect until this upcoming offseason. So you have him for the year. You've got Michael Thomas, you've got Olave, you've got Jarvis Landry, and you've got Marquise Callaway, who was pretty good last year with Jameis up until Jameis had gotten hurt. And I'm thinking, okay, they've got Dennis Allen as their head coach. They're retaining one of their key pieces on that staff. They've got what looks to be a very good offense on paper. I'm surprised we're not talking about them more. And now you see that Andy Dalton is the starter, despite the fact that Jameis is healthy. And they come out on Monday night and absolutely shit the bed at home with a great opportunity to really turn their season around. I understand they were going up against Lamar, and don't get me wrong, everybody knows how good Lamar Jackson is. Everybody knows how much of a game changer he is. Man, he did his thing on Monday night. I just expected more of an effort, man. I mean, I know it was a 10-point differential as far as the final score was concerned, but Baltimore was in control that whole game. They really were. And look, I don't see the Saints making the playoffs at this point, um, unless they go back to Jameis, because Andy Dalton, well, he's nothing more than a backup at this point in his career. It's just the fact of the matter.
Right. No, I was curious what you were about to say next. You had a little Andy Dalton experience there in Dallas, but nonetheless, Ravens continue to move on, and as it stands, Charles, Eagles are at 10th pick. So Saints are sitting at or excuse me, they're at
Just six pick.
6th pick. Okay, yeah, they're yeah, they're quite a ways down the standings, so that's looking good in terms of that first round pick for you guys. So uh I know you mentioned you want them to keep losing, but we'll
Yep,
see. Maybe
I'm rooting against them every week. Fuck them.
yeah, for sure. So let me just go ahead and run down through some of the other scores that we had this week. We'll get those up. We'll get our, you'll see our picks. And we had a great week in terms of picks. You had the Chargers and Falcons game kind of came down to the wire. Chargers were able to get into field goal position there at the end, and they were able to knock off the Falcons. Bengals had a day 42-21 over the Panthers. Joe Mixon, 55.1 fantasy points. RIP to anybody who played against him this week. Joe Mixon had a hell of a day. 153 yards, 4 touchdowns, had another touchdown receiving, 58 yards. So props to him. I think fantasy owners have been waiting for a breakout like that from him. And PJ Walker was benched at halftime, bringing Baker Mayfield back onto the scene. So we'll kind of see how that goes. I know the Panthers are one of the teams that we're talking about here in terms of the Thursday night game here tomorrow night. But nonetheless, Lions get it done over the Packers. Packers have now lost 5 straight games. They fall to 3-6. And it only gets worse next week, as Bush has already put it. They will be playing against Dallas. Rodgers had another 3 interceptions. 2 of them were in the red zone. So tough look for them. But, man, the Packers just don't look good this year. And I love every second of it. So Jags 27-20 over the Raiders. The Raiders blow their third 17-point lead of the season, and they fall to 2-6. So we were all on the Jags. We kind of figured this was going to happen. I was getting a little nervous when I saw the Raiders were up, but I should have realized, hey, it's the Raiders. They've already done this a couple times this year. But Jets get it done. That's another pick where Charles and I, actually all three of us, went wrong. Josh Allen had some questionable throws in that game. I still think it's him trying to do it all. And now he's got a little bit of a UCL elbow injury, so his status for this weekend is kind of up in the air right now. So we'll see. But that's going to be a big game against the Vikings. Speaking of the Vikings, how about all the viral videos you saw of Kirk Cousins?
Those were
celebrating on the team plane. He was vibing, man, and you should. You like that. Vikings get it done 20-17 over the Commanders, and they move to 7-1. Seahawks get it done 31-21 over the Cardinals. They move to 6-3, and the Buccaneers beat the Rams 16-13. Even though it looked like the Rams had that game in the bag, all they had to do was get that first down. But Buccaneers get it back with 44 seconds left. You had a scene that you've seen before. Brady relying on his tight end to push the ball up the field with little to no time remaining. Props to Brady for going over 100,000 yards. And the Rams' second half struggles continue as they fall to 3-5. So that is a look at your Week 9 finals. And let's go ahead now at this point here, and I'm just going to go ahead and pull up the playoff picture. I'll start with the NFC playoff picture first. You got your division winners, the Eagles, Vikings, Seahawks, and Buccaneers. And you got the Cowboys, Giants, and 49ers sitting there in your wild card spots. And in the hunt, you have the Falcons, the Commanders, and the Rams. I'm sure these will all continue to change here as the season progresses. But, I think based on our early season picks, guys, we're kind of right there. So let's look at the AFC. You got the Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, and Titans are your division leaders. The Jets and Dolphins. This is an unfamiliar sight to me, unfamiliar sight to all of you guys, as the Patriots are in the hunt, thankfully, but trailing their other three division foes. It's just like, what the hell's going on here? So nonetheless, Bengals and Colts are also in the hunt. I think the Colts are going to fall off here. I don't know. We'll see if they rally around a guy like Jeff Saturday, but that is what we're looking at so far, guys. So before we move into Week 10, our second segment tonight is going to be talking some power rankings. But before we get to that, go ahead, Charles.
Where's our picks at? Where are we standing at in the standings?
Yeah, I got you. So here's our weekly pick'em standings. We finally, you guys hit 80 games. So
80.
That's big,
I still don't like the one next to all of our records, though.
Yeah.
I really don't like that, man.
Fucking Colts. They should fire everybody for that.
Unbelievable. But yeah, we had a great week. If it wasn't for the Lions and the Jets, man, Charles and I would be sitting there at 13-0. So big week for all of us. That's one of our better weeks thus far. Still haven't gotten to 12 wins yet in terms of a 12-win week, but that may come this week as we have 13 games to look forward to. Actually, it's 14 games this week. So if we can go 12-2, hell, I think all of us would be happy there. Get to 92-50 or some shit like that. So, man, oh man. But let's get into the power rankings here. I put together a nice little graphic for this. Bush, Charles, myself, we all got together last night, kind of got lists together of, kind of where we thought each top 10 was. And we kind of compiled a list based off of that. So I think we're all kind of in agreement here that this is what we're rolling with. So you got of course, you've got the Eagles up there. Chiefs are right there in second. The Vikings, Bills, Ravens. These are all teams that you would have expected. as we've talked about, I think the Chiefs just, they have the edge here over the Bills. Like you said, Charles, if you're the Bills, you might be getting a little nervous thinking that AFC Championship could be held at Arrowhead. But Bush, your takeaways from this list, man. You got your boys sitting there at number 6, followed by the Dolphins, the Seahawks. Some of these teams that haven't quite been on a list like this over the last couple of years.
I think it's incredibly accurate. I think all of us put together our heads here and came up with a list that made the most sense. Um, you know, this is going to change by the end of the year. I can see a couple of teams on this list maybe not panning out um, how we think they will, just because they look so good up until this point in the year. And look, and I'll point them out. I mean, will Seattle be able to continue how good they look? Will the Niners turn it around at any point? Will Tennessee be there? I predicted Miami to miss out on the playoffs, and they've surprised me. They're sitting at number 7 right now. Will they be able to keep it up? I think they will because they need Tua. They are obviously a much different team with Tua under center. But when you look at 1 through 6, those are the top teams in the league right now. There's no question about it. And yeah, you're gonna have people say, "Well, what about the Jets and Giants?" And listen, I've picked the Giants every game this year except 2, but I want to see more from them offensively because Charles brought up a very good point a few weeks ago rather. Is it sustainable? Is their offensive output sustainable? And I think it begs the question. I really do. They just can't hand it off to Saquon 25 times a game and hope Danny Dimes picks up some first downs with his legs, and hopefully that'll be their winning formula. It just doesn't work like that. So, look, a lot can change between now and week 18.
Yeah, no, for sure. Charles, how about your takeaway from this list, man? Obviously, the Eagles were going to be number 1, no question. But like I said with Bush, a lot of these teams haven't quite seen a list like this over the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool to see the Dolphins up here. I'll be honest with you. The Titans, I think also the Giants. I know Bush on your list, the Giants were up there. And I think to this point, although I do ask if their offense can be sustainable, I do think to this point, I mean, they've had a really good season. Now, are they a good 6-2 football team, or are they just a bad 6-2 football team who have caught some breaks? I don't know, but I can tell you, if I was a Giants fan, I would be happy with how they've played thus far. The Ravens, watch out for them because they could be the sneaky good team in the AFC. If you look at their game against the Bills, well, they up 20-3. Their defense is going to get better. They just traded, oh my God, for Roquan Smith, so that defense is getting better. Lamar looked, I guess, based off what you all are saying, looked better on Monday, and I would say he looked better last week too when I actually got to watch football. So they might be the sneaky good team of the AFC. I wouldn't, hold that. And then of course, yes, the Eagles. I love the AJ Brown pick there. Sitting here with 2 Cowboys fans, this has the heart. See
Here we
AJ
go.
Brown up there. I'm sorry, a Cowboys and a Giants fan.
Yeah, right.
Oh man, I knew that was gonna get turned around on me. Yeah.
Oh man, that's a tough one, but yeah, for sure. I think that the 49ers will continue to rise up. I'm not sure if the Seahawks will be able to sustain it, kind of like you guys talked about. Obviously, the Cowboys have looked good, but those first 5 teams, like you guys said, they are where they deserve to be. I think Charles, you talk in terms of sneaky teams that maybe nobody's talking about, and I would say the Vikings. I would say the Ravens. I mean, the Vikings didn't necessarily have this big win over the Commanders this past weekend, but nonetheless, a win is a win. So they get to 7-1. They have a huge matchup this weekend with the Bills. I'm still undecided on that one because I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen in this one. But yeah, the Titans, like I was talking to Bush about kind of before we came on the air, is like, look, they've been fighting and clawing their way back into the top 10 here over the last couple of weeks. Vrabel's kind of putting things together. The way I put it with Bush is he's kind of like one of those Belichick type coaches where he's playing chess, not checkers, and He's starting to put some stuff together. I think once Tannehill's back in the fold, that they will only continue to look good. They are still continuing to rely on Derrick Henry very heavily, but you've come to expect that over the last couple of years. So nonetheless, yeah, I think that's a very solid top 10. I agree with the Dolphins, man. I was really curious to see what Mike McDaniel was going to be able to do, but he's been rallying the troops this year. So, like you said, Bush, it's not going to be these same positions here towards the end of the year, but nonetheless, like I said, I think a great list. You got the Giants, the Jets, teams that we kind of talked about over the group chat last night when we were putting this together. And if this list went to 12, they would be right there. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and kind of wrap up the second segment here, and let's get into some Week 10. Tomorrow night we have the Falcons traveling to Carolina to take on the Panthers. As you can see, we are all rolling Falcons. This is a 3-point game in favor of those Falcons. And in terms of this game, guys, I don't know if you saw my pre-show notes, but I'm like, why do we have to talk about this? It's just like,
And I'm glad you said that because we don't.
no, I know, but let's not dive too far into it. It's enough to give a pick and just kind of where we think things might be. These teams played 2 weeks ago where they went to overtime in a high-scoring affair. But you guys had Falcons, I had Panthers, and I was sitting downstairs earlier talking to Jenna. I'm like, you could ask her. I had the Panthers logo under my head, and
we know you had Panthers because you texted the group chat Panthers at home.
Yeah, Panthers at home with the old check mark. I'm just like, I had some more time to think about it, and I'm just like, nah,
it's
I
not
can't do this
official
again.
until we put it up on the screen. So
Right.
yeah,
He didn't want to chase us anymore, Bush.
No, well, see, that comes into it too. I could afford to take this, but I really can't at the same time. So if it means I get one game closer to you guys, I would have done it. But I can't rely on that. So don't know what we're gonna see here quarterback wise, and in terms of the Panthers, they've looked like a bit of a shit show offensively here over the last couple weeks now. I know, like we said, you had the high scoring game there with the Falcons. Maybe the only good part of this game is that it is a divisional game, and divisional games tend to be a little bit more exciting than just your standard, in conference game. But we are all going to ride Falcons. I believe having Cordero Patterson back, he looked good last week for the Falcons. He scored 2 touchdowns. You still have that 2-headed backfield there in terms of him and Algier. So they're going to split carries, but we'll see what happens in this one. Like I said, we don't have to dive too far into it, but we are going to highlight some other games. Let's talk about that Vikings and Bills game. You have the Bills are actually favored in this one by 5. So your thoughts, boys?
So I think that this matchup and its excitement, I guess, is the best way to put it, is all going to depend on whether or not Josh Allen is available. Because Sean McDermott came out today and said that he wasn't sure if he was going to be available. He's dealing with an ulnar collateral ligament to I think it was it's not a fracture or a stress of any sorts. I don't know what the exact meaning is behind it, but I know it has to do with something in your elbow, and it's in his throwing elbow, which is not ideal for Bills fans because they need Josh Allen behind center if they have any chance, in my opinion. So for that reason, and because of all of the uncertainty surrounding who's going to be starting for Buffalo, I'm going to take the Vikings in this one. I just think that they're really really riding a good high right now. They've looked very good this year outside of that Eagles game. I mean, they really have. But I just think that there's too much uncertainty. There's too much smoke in the air surrounding the Bills right now. They haven't had a very good past couple of games either. I mean, yeah, they did beat Green Bay on a Sunday night, but Josh Allen threw 2 picks. And then, man, they blew a 17-3 lead against the Jets last weekend, and that was it. They lost 20-17. They got outscored 17-0 in the second half. So I think Buffalo's hitting a little bit of a slump right now. Josh Allen's hurt. The Vikings are the better team. They've got more momentum. I'm going to take Minnesota.
Yeah, for sure. Charles,
They didn't score in the second half?
They didn't.
No, they got shut down. DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner just shut down Gabe Davis and Stephon
I'm going to go with the Vikings. I ain't got nothing else to say about it. Damn, I didn't know that.
So it wasn't 5. It was actually 3.5. The Bills are favored. The Bills are at home, which I think is a nice little advantage for them. I anticipate that Josh Allen will play, and he's got the heart of a lion. I think the Bills get it done this weekend. I'm going to roll with the Bills. Let's see if I can't get one step closer to you guys. So, I just look, the Vikings have looked good, but I think the Bills are the better team in this situation. I know they're lower on the power rankings, but come end of the season, I think you'll see the Bills right where we predicted them to be.
And I'm rooting for the Bills because this does nothing but help the Eagles.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no doubt. So let's go ahead and talk some Cowboys at Packers. This game is at Lambeau Field, and the Cowboys are favored by 5. Bush, your thoughts, man? Could you guys send the Packers a 6th straight loss?
So it's funny because this is the first time in my lifetime I can remember the Cowboys going into Lambeau with an advantage at quarterback. I mean, all those times Romo and Favre met up, which was probably 2 or 3 times, but that feels like a lot to me. All the times Romo and Rodgers had met up, and most recently Dak and Rodgers. Look, the Cowboys have always had very good quarterback play against the Packers, but Aaron Rodgers has just been their kryptonite. I mean, the guy's absolutely unbelievable. So for them to actually be going into Lambeau with the advantage this week is not something I can say I've seen in my lifetime. I just haven't been able to. The Cowboys are 1-13, I believe, in their last 14 matchups against the Packers. It hasn't been much of a rivalry since the 90s. It really hasn't been. I mean, it's a shame, but Green Bay has been the more dominant team over the last couple of decades, and it's just the fact of the matter. However, because of how dynamic Dallas's offense looks right now, and they are flirting with Odell Beckham as we speak. Now, that doesn't have any impact on this game, and I understand that. But I think if they beat Green Bay, they're sitting at 7-2. Mr. Beckham would be ready to go here in a couple of weeks. He might find that to be a pretty appealing destination. I just think Dallas is the more well-rounded team. Green Bay's lost, man. They are lost. What was going on in Detroit last Sunday? When was the last time you saw Aaron Rodgers throw an interception in the red zone?
Let alone 2.
Let alone 2, because I certainly don't remember. The Cowboys are the better team. Simply put, they're 6-2. Green Bay's 3-6. Rodgers has nobody to throw to, and I mean nobody. It's a no-brainer to me, and I'm not even attempting to be biased. The Cowboys are a better team than the Packers are, and I have never been able to say that in my lifetime. I just haven't been. So
yeah, that's a sentence you have never spoken since I've known you. So, Charles, your take on this game, man?
I'm going with the Cowboys. I don't really care about this game at all.
No, yeah, I mean, we all got to go Cowboys.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, I hope they beat the shit out of Aaron one and done.
And you look at the, you look at the Packers' schedule. They got a tough stretch to end the season. They still got to play the Vikings again. They got some really tough games coming up. So,
and then I think on Sunday night the week after.
I don't know.
I was looking at the Sunday night schedule earlier.
Sunday night against them boys in Philly.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right, because they do play Philly. Yeah,
Yep.
that's true.
They play so they got the Cowboys, the Titans, the Eagles, and then they got Bears, Rams, Dolphins. So tough stretch for them, and it looks like they're going to end the season with the Vikings. But man, let's all ride with Dallas here this weekend. I think they should have no problem getting it done for the first time in a long time, as you put it, Bush. So uh Chargers and 49ers. This is our Sunday night game this week. Chargers are on the road and the Niners are favored by a touchdown. This is it's kind of a tough one for me because the Chargers haven't exactly looked how we thought they would. And the 49ers are starting to kind of put things together here with McCaffrey. The 49ers are also going to be coming out of a bye. So I am going to roll 49ers here. I think it's the better team in this case, if you will. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers get a win here. Bush, your thoughts? Or Charles, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to go with the 49ers, but I just more so important in this game. Football's really here, y'all. Now they're starting to flex games.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
there was
Yeah,
a flex.
it's
yeah,
true.
we're getting in to flex position, so that'll be happening sooner than later. But you just think about this game. This is a game where if the Chargers play how we thought they would play in the beginning of this before the season, and the 49ers play how I thought they would play at the whole season, this would be like probably the best game of the season so far on Sunday Night Football. Be the marquee matchup of the week. So I do pick the 49ers to win. I think they'll win.
Yeah. Bush, your thoughts on this one?
I'm going to take the Niners as well. Um, I don't know what the Chargers are doing with Justin Herbert. Um, I know Keenan Allen has been injured lately, and Brandon Staley has really had a number of questionable coaching decisions, even going back to last year, that I think have set the Chargers back. I don't, and in all fairness, and in return, it has also set Justin Herbert back. I don't want to sit here and say that I think that they're wasting Herbert's talent, but I don't know what their offense is. I can't figure them out. I mean, okay, yes, they did beat the Falcons this past week, but it was by a slim margin. It wasn't anything too dominant. And they've kind of looked that way this whole season. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with Justin Herbert. I don't know what they're doing with the offense, but it's very perplexing to me. And I think that this is the time of the year where the Niners are really going to start to turn it up. That is a good football team. That is a dangerous, dangerous offense all across the board. And they're healthy. And
Right.
they've got all their superstars healthy. So I'm going to take the Niners.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing with the Chargers is they're not healthy. They lost J.C. Jackson. Keenan Allen's been battling an injury all year. Mike Williams has been hurt as of late, and I think we all know this best. Just myself especially, Bush, this. Uh, in terms of receivers, when some of your receivers start to go down, that really changes the way things start to operate on offense. So as you can see, they've really been relying on Austin Eckler lately. They're kind of making him be the be all and end all. He's doing everything he possibly can to keep these guys in games. But yeah, it's at this point in the season, you got guys that are banged up, and the healthier team is going to be the best fit to win the game. So Charles, you talked about flex scheduling. The Chargers were actually part of a flex scheduling matchup here next Sunday night. It was supposed to be Bengals and Steelers on Sunday night, but they have now made it Kansas City Chiefs and Chargers on Sunday night, November 20th. So, you lose a divisional game from Sunday night, but you put one right back in there. Looking forward to that matchup for sure. We were treated to a good one the first time around at Arrowhead. This one will be at SoFi. So, yeah, let's all roll with the 49ers this weekend here as the Chargers continue to figure things out as the season progresses. But we'll highlight one more here. Commanders at Eagles, Monday Night Football. Charles, I thought this might have been a game that you were going to attend. I guess you really haven't confirmed that yet or not, but I know you're just getting back from vacay, so
Yeah, I'm not going to this game.
not going to this one.
Can't make both work.
Right.
I'm not paying money to go to a game to see that team from Washington, and I'm just going to pick the Eagles and not even mention the other one.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think I could speak for Bush, but
Yeah.
we're all going Eagles.
Yeah, we're all on the same page there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Commanders, they've I will say they've looked better with Taylor Heineke, just kind of like I talked about a few weeks ago. They seem to rally around this guy, and he's somebody who seems like a leader in that locker room. They've looked good without Wentz, so and that's
Yeah.
that was, I think, to be expected. Charles knows it best. So let's move forward. Let's get into the rest of the Week 10 matchups. I know this episode has gone kind of quick tonight, but, we were due for a quick one. So let's go Seattle and Tampa here. This one is in Germany. This is Sunday morning in Germany. Tampa is favored by 3. Who do you guys got in this one, man?
Oh man, this is a tough one. I'm gonna go with the Bucks. I think last week, it was not an exciting game against the Rams outside of the last couple of minutes, but there really is no home field advantage over there in Germany. It's kind of a level playing field. I think I think he's ready to make one last final push here. I can't count him out. Look, and I've said in previous episodes that Brady does not look good or has not looked good, as have the Bucks. They have not looked good either. But I think that this is when they can really turn it up a little bit. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay.
I got the Bucks too. Brady said 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one.
Yeah.
You're muted, Ben, but he's going with the Bucks.
Yeah, I'm going to go Bucks as well. Yeah, I mean, how can you not? I think, like we've talked about, Seahawks look good, but Brady is going to be on one here as the season starts to progress. So we're all on the Bucks. Let's go ahead and pull up the rest here. Detroit and Chicago. You got a NFC North game in Soldier Field this weekend. Looks like the Bears are favored by 3. I'm going to roll with the Bears in this one. I think they're ultimately the better team right now. And Detroit is going to have a little bit of a hangover from, that little party they had last weekend in the locker room after that big win. So go ahead, Bush.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Bears as well. Like I said, Justin Fields has played extremely well over the past 3 weeks. I think that only continues.
Yeah,
Charles?
I'm going with the Bears too.
Yeah. Did you? Well, Charles, I don't know if you saw it, but Bush, I'm sure you did. You see the Dan Campbell interview there at the end.
Oh yeah, I just want to go home and drink a beer. I was like, I feel you.
Yeah, no doubt. I think you can compare him to your average American who just had a hard day's work. This man was ready to go home and just crack some brews open. So I don't blame him. Big win over Aaron, one and done. But Denver and the Titans, this one will be held in Nashville. Titans only favored by 2.5. Seems kind of low. I'm still not super sold on these Broncos. Bush, your pick?
I'm going to take Tennessee in this one.
Yeah, I know. That's been a theme with you.
I'm going with the Titans.
Yeah. The Bush's theme has seemingly been fuck Denver, and I don't blame him one bit for it.
Yeah, I do not like them.
Right.
Not like them at all. At least I'm consistent,
Right, exactly, for sure. So Jaguars Chiefs at Arrowhead. Seems like the Chiefs have 16 home games a year, but this is a 9.5 point favorite for the Chiefs. I'm going to roll Chiefs. I think they get it done and they cover.
Chiefs.
I will take Kansas City as well. They're on a roll here.
Oh yeah, let's get this first undefeated week, boys.
Yeah, yeah. Let's be smart.
Right. That Vikings and Bills game is gonna. I think it's gonna be close. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that's going to be an easy one for either team.
Right. How about Browns Dolphins? Dolphins are back at home, and they're facing a Browns team who has looked good and a Browns team who has not looked so good. So I think I got to go Dolphins in this one, man. I like what Mike McDaniel's doing. I like the role that the Dolphins are on, and the Browns just haven't been quite able to put all the pieces together when it's mattered.
Yeah, I'm going with the Dolphins.
Bush, your thoughts?
Almost got caught in between there. I'm going to take the Dolphins as well, man. They look really, really good here the past couple of weeks, and I think that's because Tua is now finally healthy and his head is right. So I'm going to take the Dolphins in this one.
For sure. How about Texans Giants? I'll start with you, Charles. I already know what Bush is picking, so I won't.
Yeah,
I
I'm
won't.
going with the Giant. I'm picking Bush's favorite team.
Giants are back at home at MetLife, favored by 4.5. Texans haven't looked great. I think that's a recipe for a Giants win. Bush, I'm sure you agree.
I full-heartedly agree. Yes, I'm going to take the Giants over the Texans.
For sure. So Saints traveling into the Berg, as I have it listed this week. 1.5 point favorite are the Saints over the Steelers. This is one that I haven't been able to decide yet. So I'm going to toss it over to Charles first on this one.
Let's go with the Steelers.
Yes, sir. I was going to say, let it be known that that's where I'm leaning. But, the Saints just, oh man, they haven't been able to pull it all together. And, you have Steelers wins, over the Steelers beat the Buccaneers. I think the Steelers, if they want to play, they can beat anybody. So yeah, give me the Steelers as well. This is gonna be one of those close games. But Bush, your thoughts here? You gonna roll with those Saints again?
Yeah, this is probably going to bite me in the ass and I'll regret it, but I think I'm going to roll with the Saints. I just don't see the Steelers having very much offensive production at the moment. They haven't had much the past couple of weeks. It would be very difficult for me to take the Steelers, so I'm going to go with the Saints.
Yeah, I can't even believe that I picked the Steelers, but
Yeah.
it's just kind of where things are going. The Steelers are coming out of a bye, so hopefully they were able to watch some film and prepare a little more heavily for this game, and get their ducks in a row here in terms of leading into the second half of the season. I know Tomlin is not one of those guys that's just gonna, roll over and that's that. He's gonna put a fire under those guys' asses and he's gonna make them play. So give me the Steelers. Let's talk some Colts Raiders. This one is at the Death Star. Raiders are favored 5.5 point spread. Jeff Saturday's first game against Josh McDaniels. Give me the Raiders. I got to take the Raiders. Who you guys got?
I'm taking the Raiders as well.
Yeah, I don't see how the Colts will beat anyone.
I just don't think they'll be ready. I don't know. I could be wrong, but
they might have good offensive line play.
They might. That might be an area of focus for Jeff Saturday in his coaching debut. But I don't know. I'm gonna take the Raiders.
Yeah, like I said, tough week last week for the Colts O-line. 9 sacks against the Patriots defense, and they're playing against another defensive front that's just as relentless. And Max Crosby, Chandler Jones, those guys love getting sacks. So I just don't see how it's not the Raiders this weekend. But again, I wouldn't be shocked if the Colts do rally and pull this out because the Raiders have not looked great. So let's talk Cardinals and Rams. This one is at SoFi Stadium. Favored 1.5 points are the Rams. This is a tough one for me because the Cardinals are, really looking for a win, and the Rams have, shown that they can get wins, but they've been struggling. So, Bush, your take on this one, man?
Oh, this is absolutely a toss-up for me. Um, I'm gonna go with the Cardinals here, and that kind of goes against what my thinking has been in regards to Kyler Murray over the course of the year. But I just think that the addition of DeAndre Hopkins back into the lineup has been very beneficial for him. Kyler's looked noticeably better since that's happened as well. And I think that the Cardinals are more of a desperate team right now than the Rams. So I'll take Arizona.
I had Cardinals down too.
Yeah. Bush, everything you just said was exactly my thoughts, man. You know, they just got James Conner back as well. And I know we talked about it in previous shows where when you have those three all on the field at the same time, that Cardinals offense seems to mesh a little bit better. So you know, I'm gonna roll Cardinals as well. I think the Rams are really just struggling here trying to figure things out. You know, you look back at that game and it's just like the Van Jefferson wide open drop and just stupid little stuff that you haven't been accustomed to with the Rams. So
Yeah,
Super Bowl
of course
hangover
they are.
indeed. But what else do we got here? We got the teams on the bye, and we've already talked the other ones. So um, that will do it for our Week 10 matchups. All the Patriots, Jets, Bengals, and Ravens all going into the bye on a high note with a win. So we will see those teams back in action next weekend. But another exciting week of football here, guys. You know, not necessarily your favorite matchup here tomorrow night, but nonetheless, it's a football game. So I will be pulling for those Falcons for our picks, guys. But that is going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you for tuning in to episode number 44 of the Bump and Run podcast. If you guys would go ahead and follow us on all social medias at Bump and Run _pod and share the show with somebody who loves football just as much as you do. Share it with a friend. Uh, you know, our loyal listeners and followers, you guys know who you are. We appreciate the hell out of you guys for tuning in every week, whether it's on our lives on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. So we will catch you guys next week, hopefully same time. But thank you guys for tuning in to another one. Bump and Run out.